The novel Piranesi opens with the protagonist, who calls himself Piranesi, describing his solitary existence within an immense house. This house is composed of countless halls, vestibules, and staircases, all adorned with an infinite array of marble statues. The lower halls are submerged by tides, providing fish and sea vegetation, while the upper halls are home to clouds and provide fresh water. Piranesi lives in the middle halls, the domain of birds and men. He meticulously records his observations in journals, documenting the house's geography, the ebb and flow of its tides, and cataloging its statues. He believes the house is immeasurably beautiful and infinitely kind, serving as a benevolent entity that provides for its inhabitants. Piranesi believes there have only ever been 15 people in existence. Of these, only he and the other are currently alive. The other is a scientist whom Piranesi deeply respects, and they meet twice a week to discuss their shared pursuit of great and secret knowledge. This knowledge, the other believes, holds immense powers like immortality, telepathy, and the ability to transform into animals or manipulate objects with thought. Piranesi also keeps a record of the 13 deceased individuals, represented by their skeletal remains scattered throughout the house, such as the biscuit box man and the folded-up child, to whom he brings offerings and converses with regularly. He ponders his own future and wonders if, upon his death, he should join the people of the alcove. During one of their meetings, the other questions Piranesi about a non-existent place called Battersea, a clever control question designed to test Piranesi's memory and honesty. Piranesi, having an eidetic memory for the house's layout, correctly identifies it as a nonsense word. However, the encounter subtly triggers fragmented images and sensations in Piranesi's mind, coalescing around the word Battersea, though he cannot grasp their meaning. A severe winter descends upon the house, bringing extreme cold and challenging Piranesi's survival. The other suspends their meetings due to the weather. One morning, while gathering seaweed for fuel, Piranesi witnesses a majestic albatross flying through the halls, a sight that fills him with profound joy and a sense of connection. He believes it to be an angelic being and is deeply moved by its presence. Soon, the albatross is joined by a mate, and Piranesi, observing their attempts to build a nest with wet seaweed, sacrifices his own meager fuel supply to provide them with dry materials. This act of selflessness allows the albatrosses to successfully build a nest and lay an egg. He names this year, the year the albatross came to the southwestern halls. Piranesi reflects on his relationship with the house and the tides. He recounts his past fear of the unpredictable tides and how he learned to predict them by meticulously recording their movements, leading to his table of tides. He also describes a harrowing experience in a cloud-filled upper hall where he almost fell into a chasm, saved only by clinging to a statue. He also considers the subtle wisdom of birds, noting how their collective behavior has, on occasion, provided him with unexpected warnings, such as an impending storm that would have left him without food had he not heeded their silent counsel. He interprets a particularly elaborate message from the birds as a warning of a message from afar. Obscure writing. Innocence eroded. The other informs Piranesi of a new, crucial component to their ritual for the great and secret knowledge. They must summon the spirit of Adi Damaris, a long-dead king believed to have possessed some of the knowledge. Piranesi, recognizing that the other has mentioned a name of the dead, eagerly asks for details, hoping to properly honor this individual with offerings. However, the other dismisses Piranesi's curiosity, stating that he needs to focus on the ritual and that Piranesi's questions are irrelevant. Piranesi feels ashamed for impeding the other's work. The other then outlines the powers the knowledge will bestow, including flight, which particularly appeals to Piranesi, who envisions himself as an osprey. The other expresses his disdain for the house, calling its halls dreary rooms, and the statues decaying figures covered with bird shit, which deeply shocks Piranesi, who reveres the house's vibrant life and unique artistry. Piranesi, despite his anger at the other's disrespect, reveals the existence of a unique hall, the 192nd Western Hall, which has only one doorway and no windows and feels like a temple. The other, initially dismissive of long journeys, becomes excited by this revelation, seeing it as a perfect, unique location for their ritual, where they can address the invocation to the brightest star visible from its doorway. However, Piranesi then reveals a critical obstacle. He no longer has shoes, and the path to this distant hall is treacherous, strewn with sharp debris from the tides. The other, with a mix of astonishment and exasperation, promises to provide him with new shoes immediately, prioritizing the acquisition of data for their ritual. True to his word, the other provides Piranesi with a pair of new blue-green canvas shoes, which fill Piranesi with immense joy and gratitude, solidifying his perception of the other as a kind friend. Piranesi, in his journal, compiles a list of all the gifts the other has given him over the years, from basic necessities like a sleeping bag and fishing nets to more unusual items like a cheese and ham sandwich and a slice of Christmas cake. He questions why the house seems to provide the other with such a variety of objects, while he primarily receives fish, concluding that it is perhaps because the other is less capable of self-sufficiency. He also attempts to verify the name, Addie Damaris, by whispering it to the skeletal remains of the dead, but receives a faint sense of repudiation from each, suggesting that none claim that name. He embarks on a journey to the 192nd Western Hall to observe the stars for the other. Along the way, he encounters many wonders of the house, including a staircase covered in mussels and a wall bathed in golden light. He navigates the debris-strewn 78th vestibule and battles an aggressive colony of herring gulls in the 88th Western Hall. Upon reaching the unique hall, its absolute darkness unnerves him. He initially hesitates, recalling a terrifying experience in a dark, cloud-filled upper hall with violent statues. Despite his fear, he enters, eventually falling asleep. He awakens to a full moon illuminating the hall, revealing its remarkable statues depicting a joyful, reverent crowd gazing at the moon, giving him a powerful glimpse of what it might be like if there were thousands of people in the world. During his return journey, Piranesi experiences a profound revelation. He no longer believes in the great and secret knowledge. He realizes that the search for it has diminished the house, treating it as a mere riddle rather than valuing it for its inherent beauty and self-sufficiency. He also questions the other's desire to control lesser minds, as he sees no such minds in their world. This newfound perspective fills him with excitement for a new kind of science. In the 88th Western Hall, he discovers scattered pieces of torn paper with cryptic writing, including the words, Minotaur, slave, and kill him, leading him to wonder if they belong to one of the dead or an unknown inhabitant of the far distant halls. When Piranesi attempts to share his revelation about abandoning the search for the knowledge with the other reacts with irritation and dismisses it as a recurring delusion, claiming Piranesi repeatedly forgets things and loses track of time due to the labyrinth's influence. He asserts that his own memory is infallible due to precautions he takes, and that his role is to set their objectives. Piranesi, though troubled, trusts the other's honesty. He decides to review his journals to verify the other's claims about his memory gaps, specifically looking for the word bad or see. He then writes a letter in chalk on the pavement, reassuring the other that he will continue to assist with data gathering, despite his loss of faith in the knowledge. The other then warns Piranesi about 16, describing this person as a malevolent enemy hostile to reason, science, and happiness, and urges Piranesi to hide from them and avoid their words, as 16 can cause madness. Piranesi, startled to learn of another living person, expresses excitement, envisioning 16 as a potential source of new knowledge about the world. The other then reveals he has already met 16, adding to Piranesi's confusion. In the first vestibule, Piranesi encounters an old man who identifies himself as the Prophet. The Prophet, to Piranesi's surprise, claims to know the names of some of the dead and openly disparages the other, whom he calls Ketterly, revealing that Ketterly was his former student and a charlatan who stole his ideas. The Prophet explains that this world, the house, is a distributary world, created by ideas flowing from another world, and that the great and secret knowledge Ketterly seeks does not exist in this house. He warns Piranesi that 16, a woman he calls Raphael, is looking for him, not Ketterly, and that Ketterly will become dangerous the closer Raphael gets. The Prophet also subtly implies that he himself has been in prison. Piranesi notes the Prophet's assertion that he had written him a letter, a memory Piranesi does not possess. Piranesi relays his encounter with the Prophet to the other, who dismisses the Prophet's words and reiterates his warning about 16, emphasizing that 16 is targeting Piranesi specifically and can induce madness. The other even states that he might have to kill Piranesi if he succumbs to 16's influence. Piranesi, still trusting the other, decides to protect himself by hiding and avoiding 16. He also removes the decorative seashells and fish bones from his hair to better camouflage himself against the marble statues. In his systematic indexing of his journals, Piranesi discovers entries referencing journals numbered far beyond his current volume, revealing that his journals had been renumbered from 21, 22, and 23 to 1, 2, and 3. This leads him to horrifying personal discoveries. He was the author of these missing journals, written in a younger handwriting, and they contain nonsensical words like Birmingham and Perugia, which he initially attributes to his own madness. He reads accounts of Stanley Ovenden, Maurizio Giussani, Silvia D'Agostino, and James Ritter, all connected to Lawrence Arne Sales, the Prophet, and Valentine Ketterly. The other, revealing a dark history of manipulation, imprisonment, and disappearances within Arne Sales's circle. James Ritter's account of a house with statues on a flooded basement, and his past habit of leaving rubbish in the first vestibule, convinces Piranesi that Ritter had indeed been in the house. This forces Piranesi to confront the unsettling possibility of his own mental instability and his fragmented memory. He realizes that the house itself, as both the other and the prophet claimed, is a source of forgetting, but he chooses to believe it does so for a good reason. Piranesi, despite his efforts to avoid 16, finds messages chalked on the pavement, providing clear directions. He realizes that 16 is attempting to communicate with him, defying the other's warnings. He writes a defiant message back, signing it, Piranesi. He then confronts the other about 16's writing, and the other admits that 16's words are dangerous in any form, but also reveals he has acquired a gun to eliminate 16 entirely. Piranesi, horrified by the idea of killing, tries to dissuade the other, but the other remains resolute. A sense of impending doom hangs over Piranesi. He discovers that a great flood, a rare conjunction of 4 tides, is imminent and will inundate many halls. He warns the other, who calmly states he will not be in the house during the flood, implying his ability to leave and return to the other world. Piranesi, concerned for 16, tries to warn her but finds that the message he wrote earlier has been erased. He quickly rewrites the warning. He then prepares for the flood by moving the skeletal remains of the dead to higher ground in the upper halls. He also finds a hidden bag containing an inflatable boat and a gun, recognizing them as the other's possessions, and suspects the other intends to use the boat to escape the flood and the gun to harm 16. On the day of the flood, Piranesi actively searches for 16, convinced that the other has set a trap. He eventually finds the other unpacking the inflatable boat. Piranesi, now piecing together his fragmented memories, confronts the other, speaking sentences directly from the journal entries he had found, revealing his true identity as Matthew Rose Sorensen and exposing the other's lies. The other, identified as Valentine Ketterly, becomes enraged and tries to grab his gun. At that moment, 16, a woman, arrives, calling out for Matthew Rose Sorensen. Piranesi, realizing 16 is his ally, grabs her hand and they both seek refuge on a high statue, the Horned Giant, as the raging tides engulf the hall. Ketterly attempts to shoot them but is ultimately swept away and killed by the powerful waves. After the flood subsides, Piranesi and Raphael, whose real name is Sarah Raphael, converse. Raphael reveals she is a police officer and has been looking for Matthew Rose Sorensen. Piranesi, still identifying as the beloved child of the house, explains his role as caretaker of the dead, including the newly deceased Ketterly. He initially resists leaving the house, feeling a duty to the dead. Raphael gently explains that Matthew Rose Sorensen's family has been worried about him. She also clarifies that the madness Ketterly warned him about was actually Matthew Rose Sorensen's memories of the other world, which now start to surface in Piranesi's mind. Ultimately, Piranesi, now known as Matthew Rose Sorensen, decides to leave the house with Raphael. He bids farewell to the statues and his familiar halls, ensuring the dead are returned to their proper resting places. He re-adorns his hair with the beautiful ornaments he had previously removed, signifying a renewed acceptance of his identity. Together, they step through the shimmering shadows in the first vestibule, which serves as a portal to the other world, the familiar reality of London. Matthew Rose Sorensen, now back in his original world, slowly reintegrates into his life, recalling how the other, Ketterly, lured him into the labyrinthine house. He explains his time in the house as a period of mental breakdown, an interpretation accepted by his family. He sheds his Piranesi appearance, embracing his former self, yet retains the essence of Piranesi, a unique perspective shaped by his experiences. He begins writing a book about Lawrence Arne Sales, the prophet, a task he and Piranesi both desired. He learns how to navigate between the two worlds, bringing James Ritter, another of Arne Sales's victims, back to the house for a brief, comforting visit. He places Ketterly's body in the lower halls to be cleansed by the tides, intending to inter his bones with the other, dead, in the house. Matthew Rose Sorensen finds comfort in the statues, which continue to offer him insight into human nature and the characters he has encountered. He frequently returns to the house with Raphael, who also finds solace in its quiet solitude. Despite the sadness of his past, he carries the house within him, a place of peace and beauty that he can access whenever the real world becomes too overwhelming. The novel concludes with Matthew Rose Sorensen walking through a snowy city, seeing familiar faces from the house in the people around him, a testament to the enduring presence of the house within his consciousness.